Hi, friends. Hello, the world. Welcome to this episode of Tools for Transitioning Humanitarians. And your host, Salon Monova. And I'm sorry about my voice and the way I look. I was sick a lot last night, so I have recovered somewhat well. But I still wanted to do this podcast because I keep seeing how many humanitarians keep struggling with this topic, the topic of where to start. So I want to transition, but I don't know where to start. This is a topic that keeps coming up a lot, and I wanted to dedicate this episode to that only to make it as practical as possible. So, um, where to start? So I would say that if we can categorize as to where we can transition to, if we speak about job wise or what we want to do, then I would say there are three categories that we can transition to. So the first category, there's really no hierarchy, obviously, but just for the sake of clarity, right? So the first category that many of my humanitarians want to transition to or think about is the public sector, whether that public sector is back home in a third country, in a different country, or the country where you are currently working. So the public sector is the one that many people have in mind. And I will go dive into details more, but I just want to give you an overview of what are the options that might be available. So that's one option. The other option is the private sector. So, in other words, the companies or maybe private foundations, whatever it is. And then the third one is self-employment, right? So, meaning that you create your own thing, you create your own job, you create your own activity, whatever you really want to, you have been wanting to. So, that's another way to go. So, I would say these are the three widely categorized options available. Now, a lot of people get stuck in which of them I want or whether I really want this or not. And when this type of thing happens is I really want people to orient themselves around what is it that they are not wanting. So what is it that they are really not wanting so that we can eliminate of the three categories? So I was coaching a client recently. She was telling me that she doesn't want anything to do with private sector or doing her own thing, right? So, okay, great. So then we have the public sector available. And then once I was telling her, okay, let's go to the public sector. So public sector usually entails either the government work or government's funding to other NGOs or institutions or think tank, whatever it is, and then we can look into those areas. So she is from France and she wants to go back to France to transition. And in her case, when I talked about the public sector, she started then thinking about, oh, okay, if it's the government, what would it be? Okay, let's brainstorm what would it be. So maybe I was telling her that other clients of mine, also from France, she was thinking about transitioning to the government sector, where in the government, looking at how the humanitarian aid is allocated or how funding is allocated. And she wanted to work on that and up at the policy level, right? So therefore, once we narrow down which sector, then we can start looking at which level would you like to work on, right? So some people want to work at policy level, strategy level. Other people want to work in operations, in something that's very concrete or tangible, right? Because they have felt like in the humanitarian sector, they haven't really worked tangible ways or they haven't created tangible results, and they really want to point out to something and say, I did this, or I contributed, or I led this. So therefore, I was asking my client, okay, which would you like to go, the policy level or the operations level? The other thing that I was asking her is that now, if we know that you want to go to the government, some of the times in the government civil service section, they require you to do some tests, do some exams, and it may not be every government, but some governments do. Like I learned about the French government, apparently they do the civil servant entry test, and I heard from another client that it's something that's very sophisticated or complicated that you need a year to prepare yourself for, right? I was also talking about if we look at the public sector of the European Union, then again, they also have their tests that you need to get ready for. So it's a year time probably that you get ready for it if you want to do that. So therefore, you can start seeing that if that's really what you want to, then you need to also know these requirements, right? And when I was talking to her about this, the other thing that came up is so she said, okay, if I would do that in the government and I really want the job that has a purpose, right? And I said, great. So if you really want the job that has a purpose, what purpose would you like? What purpose that ignites you, that makes you feel like I really want to work on this because it makes sense to me? And in that relation with the purpose, I was also talking to her about it's probably also important in that case for you to also know about what impact you want to make, what impact you really want to work on, because I know that some of the other clients they don't like the impact to be small, right? So they like impacts to be very big. And when they talk about big impact, what they mean is big impact in terms of numbers. Therefore they say that, well, I don't really want to go to the NGO world, even though I believe in the NGO's missions and the work. But I really feel like that's very limiting for me. I would like to work on impacts that are bigger. So, and then I was telling her, this client, that, okay, if you would like the impact to be how impactful, right? So, what is your definition of impact that looks like? And I was telling her also how my definition of the impact looks like and how other people's definition of impact looks like. So, for instance, for me, the impact is I would measure by how systematically things are changed and how sustainably things are changed, right? So that's the impact that I want to work on. And if I can work on systematic and sustainable ways of impact, then it will always involve a lot of people. Now, numbers for me don't really matter as much as the systemic ways of changing things. For some people, numbers matter. So therefore, you need to know what's your definition of how you would like the impact to be, right? So she was thinking about that. Now, if we go further into the public sector, then we also know that the governments usually give funds to other organizations, institutions, foundations, whoever it is, to be doing certain social work, right? So if you are into social work, then you can look down the line in your research to look at, okay, which organizations the government is giving money to and where I want to work for which organization. So I have clients who have found the job in the migration section or the refugee section or the government's funding on certain foreigners, right? So because we have worked on that in the past and we feel like that's where we could go to. Other clients have found that the government's own foundation, charity foundations that my clients want to work in. So, especially in the Middle East area, they feel like they want to work on the government's funding on the certain charities and how that charity is administered or how the social responsibility of that government. So they want to work on that, right? Excuse me. Yeah. So, and that's how the you can start looking into the public sector and looking into how the government's money is being allocated and where you would like to work, where you have the areas of expertise. And then when I was guiding my clients through this, and then she was telling about, okay, I don't know which of the skills are transferable. Excellent question. Okay, now let's get down to listing your skills that you currently have, excuse me, and understand which one are transferable. So for instance, for sure, project management skills or managerial skills or advocacy skills, fundraising skills. Those are very transferable. So that's why there are lots of ways that you can already think about how you will transfer it. But in order to do that, you need to start. The next practical step would be once you know where you would like to roughly work, it would be great for you then to start talking to the people who are actually doing that job now. And that's where you start looking at, okay, this is the job that might be interesting for me. These are the requirements. And I would like to talk to people who are doing that job. And ideally, we would want to talk to at least 5 to 10 people so that we can have a bit more of a wide range of opinions about how that job is, whether we want to do it long term, or it's just a short term thing. And if it's a short term thing, then what do we want to do long term, right? So that's why we need to start thinking in all of those areas. So that's when it comes to public sector. Now, the private sector is something that also where many of my clients get stuck as to not knowing where to search for those companies or where to find those companies. In the private sector, I always tell people that, I mean, I always give them the list of companies that could be very interesting for my clients. But also, I really want them to start thinking about, okay, in the private sector, obviously, it's also a very wide range of. So, where would you like to work? Which area of the private sector would you like to work? Some people tell me that, oh, I have the supply background in the humanitarian sector, so I would like to go to the supply background in the private sector. Excellent. Right. So now we can look at all the supply chain type of companies in the private sector, and it makes it also easy because if you already know them, know private companies from your humanitarian background, and because you have dealt with them, you have dealt with vendors, you have dealt with suppliers, then you'll probably have a list of companies in mind that you want to go for. But if you don't have that list of companies in mind, again, you can start thinking about, okay, do I want to work on the social responsibility part? Do I want to work on the communications part? Do I want to work on advocacy part? Do I want to work on inclusion of refugees, migrants in the workforce, whatever it is? So, right. So, whatever that ignites you, let's start digging in that areas. And then I also tell people that absolutely it would be great for you to start talking to either HR or managing directors of those companies. If they are smaller companies, it's great to talk to the managing directors or CEOs. But if it's a huge corporation, then maybe you are able to talk to at least HR people or similar positions, headcount huntings, right? Or you could talk to people who are already doing the job that you want to do and find out how they like their job, what are the challenges, what's going on, and not from the creating competition part, but more from okay, I would like to just get to know and understand. And in that moment, when we start discussing this with my clients, what the topic that often comes up is, well, I'm actually not good at selling myself. I don't know how to sell myself, right? Now, selling yourself or your skills isn't skill that you can learn. It's something that we can all learn. It's nothing rocket science there. In fact, I even get my people to be practicing and simulating this with me as well. So therefore, if you'd like to work on this, absolutely come coach with me. I would like to get you to be mastering that because there is no skill that we cannot learn as humans. It's just a matter of how we're going to approach it, how we're going to learn it, how long it will take. So that's not the problem. The other thing that people get stuck at is the transferable skills. Again, there are lots of things that we already have and possess that private sector wants. And I have seen people transition to the private sector easily. I have seen people who transition to private sector after trying the public sector. So there are lots of different options available. We just need to learn how to network with people, how to tell them how to sell our services basically, and also how to be adding value to them so that they understand why we would be valuable for them. And that all of this, we can work on it, no problem. Now, let's go to the self-employment section. This is where a lot of people get freaked out, and a lot of people believe that, oh my God, I can't really do that. This seems so scary. This seems so unstable, uncertain, and I don't know if I have what it takes. And all of this drama, and all of this drama we can coach on as well. But I really want you to start thinking about, okay, if you want to do things on your own, and if you want to create your own thing, what would that be? And then how could you get yourself ready? So some clients tell me that they want to get ready first by being employed in the private sector to understand the private sector before starting their own thing. Other clients want to go immediately to their own thing and start doing their own thing, whether it's painting, creativity, whether it's starting your own startup, whether it's starting your own company, whether it's starting your own consultancy, whether it's something that you have been wanting to do and you've never been able to do that, whatever it is, you can start doing that. Now, a lot of humanitarian clients, they tend to want to go to the consultancy, or they want to start their own business, right? Now, whichever it is, you already, if it's the consultancy, you probably already know some people who have been doing that and hear their story, right? So I have a client who wants to move to Portugal and then start her own consultancy because she likes the research element of it, and she likes the monitoring and evaluation element of it, and she feels like she also likes working on strategies, and she would like to do that with some organizations, but as a consultant. Now, if you're wanting to go in that route, you will already probably know a lot of people who are doing it. And if you don't know, there are platforms on Facebook that you can go to and ask where a lot of humanitarians are. It's like the 50 Shades of Aid, I think, is one of them. The other one is Humanitarian Women's Network. Another one is Aid Mama, and there are other platforms as well. And you can go and ask for how consultants' experience is and all of this. Now, here is the interesting part that you need to know is that if even if you ask these questions, these people, like my client was telling me who is wanting to go and live in Portugal, she said that a lot of people who are consultants tell her that, oh my God, it's very unstable, it's very difficult. Don't do it if you don't, if you can, this type of advices. Now, people will always tell their own perspective of how it is for them, but it doesn't need to be your experience, right? So, for instance, if at the time when I was transitioning to starting my coaching practice, if I heard from people about, oh, it's very unstable or difficult or whatever, I wouldn't have listened anyway, even though I didn't do that, but I wouldn't have listened anyway because I truly believe that everyone's experience is different, and also everyone's level of managing their emotions is different. And I have always learned how to manage my emotions before transitioning. So therefore, my experience of transitioning is very different. And I have never wanted to do any other thing but coaching, right? So therefore, be careful what type of advices you are getting, and be careful also making your own judgments based on their fears, because a lot of the times we tend to do that. We tend to take over other people's fears and then add our own fears and then just say, oh my God, this is not going to work. Everything that you want um, is going to work, and you are able to make it work as long as you have the self concept of someone who says, I'm going to do this no matter what. As long as you have the emotional ability to manage those emotions, then you can make anything work. So therefore, if you're having trouble with, oh my God, I really wanted to do this, but I can't really do it on my own, but I would like to do it anyway, or I would like to try and find out, then absolutely come coach with me, because I really would like to coach people on any of these categories that I'm talking about as to where they want to, irrespective of where they want to transition to. They make this decision out of a powerful place and not out of fear of others or fear of themselves. Because as long as we keep making decisions out of fear of this not working and not working or not being able to make it work or whatever it is, then we're going to end up compromising or doing things that we don't want anyway. And that's the reason we're transitioning to begin with, right? So therefore, I don't really see the point of transitioning if we're going to create another set of problems that we need to be solving. So that's why whatever your struggle around where to start and how to start, and I don't know how, I don't know what skills, I don't know how to prepare, absolutely come coach with me. I just wanted to give you an overview of what is available and where you can start thinking and how you can start thinking. And then the details of how to do this and how to get everything done within a year, I would love to accompany you to get to that place where you feel whatever the transitioning you had in mind is successful. Okay, my dears, have a beautiful week and don't forget to let me know about how what are your questions about, what are your struggles about, and where you are getting stuck so I can address this in the next videos. Thank you. Bye.